Is it really a surprise to me that they're taking you seriously? I always had the very best seats, now they're calling you off of the streets. Your face is now a sharpened jaw, and all these women are in shock and awe. That such a nice guy could be so unrefined. It's like an extra type of curse, and what you mean will be what's worse.
Hey gamers, welcome to episode 32 of Cinema Curse. Tonight, Twunks, Otters, Muscle Mommies, Dommy Mommies, MILFs, Girl Dick, Dev Patel. We've got it all. We're talking a bunch of movies that have been released these last couple months that we haven't talked about yet, specifically really focusing on Rose Glass's Love Lies Bleeding, Alex Garland's Civil War, and Luca Guadagnino's, I hope I'm saying that right, Challengers, along with Monkey Man, People's Joker, Abigail, I Saw the TV Glow, and maybe some other stuff. I'm your Wicked Game Master, Connor Lloyd Crews, the Joey Chestnut of talking about movies we haven't seen in a long time. He has been lost at sea, and that's the reason why. So this is the Lost at Sea arc this season. We couldn't get him. He was asking, his rates were becoming exorbitant. But I am joined by...
Hey guys, it's Brian. How are you?
And
Hey everyone, Scott. Good to see you again.
it's us three. It's like the Twin
just
Peaks
us.
episode a couple of years ago. It's
Oh,
just
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Who gives a fuck? We don't have celebrity guests like Jason Steele, creator of Charlie the Unicorn, but we do have us. I want to thank Marini Sakamoto and her band Shunkin for the use of their song Curse off of the EP She Nods for our opening. It's been 182 days since the strike ended, and the AMPTP still sucks. How are you guys? Thanks for joining.
Yeah, not bad. How you doing?
Good. Good.
I'm doing all right.
Let's just get into it. I know, Bri, you usually don't like describing what happens in a movie, but I think this time you will like. This is a shot of the Crypt Keeper, by the way, which I can explain
Nice.
at a certain point why it's related. But what happens in Love Lies Bleeding?
Yeah, I have a really good idea of this movie. I ended up seeing it 6 times, so I think
yeah.
it's pretty much my favorite of the year so far. It features Kristen Stewart and the wonderful Katie O'Brien, who I think she was on a Star Wars, the last Star Wars series. I don't really watch those, but I had never seen her before, so this was the first film I saw her, and she was fantastic. She plays Jackie, who is a bodybuilder. Basically comes to a town that's near Las Vegas because she's trying to wait it out before a giant weight bodybuilding tournament. So she stumbles into this small town, and she's homeless for a minute, and her first idea is to find a job, find shelter. Pretty basic. She comes across Dave Franco's character, and you kind of see them hooking up in the first night, and that's sort of that establishment. Then you kind of see Kristen Stewart and everything kind of come to play, and really she's got her sister, who's played by Jenna Maloney, and then the guy JJ, who is Dave Franco's character, is the brother-in-law. And basically we then come to find out that Jackie ends up getting a job through JJ at a gun range that is owned by Ed Harris's character, who is the father of Jenna Maloney and Kristen Stewart's.
And he's the one who looks like the Crypt Keeper in the movie.
He is definitely okay. Now I understand completely. It's funny. A24, they made a bunch of cool merch, and one was this hoodie, but it was literally just a weird thing of him. And I was like, I don't think I could wear that. That's just weird.
Yeah, no, he looks like the Crypt Keeper, which is funny because the Crypt Keeper, while his own character is sort of a ripoff of the Creeper from Creepshow, and you know who was in that first Creepshow movie?
That's a good call.
Ed Harris. I was gonna. I kind of want to make a joke where I say somebody else who was in that movie, but I didn't.
That's fair.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it kind of goes into, they end up meeting each other. Jackie ends up working out at the gym, which is where Kristen Stewart's character Lou is working, and they sort of, they meet each other and immediately have chemistry and sort of, feel a vibe for each other. Outside of the gym, they end up kind of like conversing more, and a couple dudes come up who are sort of like, yeah, you're coming with us instead of that. And yeah, Jackie shows that she's not coming with them. They kind of then hang out in the gym for the night until Kristen Stewart's character says, I got something for you, after Jackie explains the whole bodybuilding thing, and also being super happy that that Lou did not look down on her for that, because apparently other people had. So Lou then gives her a suitcase, or a little case of steroids. So what could go wrong? And that sort of sets a lot of stuff up. But the other kind of storyline that's really moving things along is Jenna Maloney's character. Lou knows that she's in an incredible abusive relationship, but sort of can't really do anything about it, because JJ is also kind of is affiliated with her dad, and it's a kind of a whole little small world. That being said, it kind of progresses a little bit, and you see at one point in time they're at a dinner together of the four of them: Jackie, Lou, and the others, the JJ, and then Jenna Maloney's character, who was Beth. Sorry, and yeah, basically at that point is the more realization of it, and then Lou ends up basically threatening JJ, and that really didn't work that much, because we find out a little bit longer as Jackie and the relationship with Jackie and Lou kind of progress. But then we find out that Dave Franco essentially beat the shit out of Beth, and that kind of really sets up what happens in the rest of this movie. It turns into some wild revenge, and I fucking loved it. It's scored by Clint Mansell.
That was the most detailed plot summary we've ever had of anything.
So
I don't
summary,
mean to like.
What would you say the movie's about?
No, I literally in my head, I think I just have seen it so many times. I'm like, I'm gonna actually just go frame by frame, I think.
Yeah, it is,
because I was like in my head picturing it, but yeah,
it's like
now just sorry to interrupt, but let's say somebody only saw it once, and let's say they saw it that one time back in February.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically about
that. This movie to someone.
It's these two women, one's a lesbian, one's bisexual, and they basically meet each other at a gym. They hang out, they really dig each other. It's come to find out that like there's some shit going on with like abuse and her sister-in-law, this and that. They battle, basically. It's a revenge film. It's hard to say without going to that one scene, because that really, to me, is the catalyst that sort of changes the dynamic of the film.
It's a love story between these two women who,
are super fucked up,
but very different. I mean, like Kristen Stewart's a little beanpole, and Katie O'Brien's the aforementioned muscle mommy, and they're very different, temperament wise, and specifically Ed Harris. We find this out pretty early on, is involved with some illegal stuff, and we get hints early on that
not a great dude.
Yeah, I mean, even Kristen Stewart starts having these little flashbacks consistently, like all framed in red, indicating that she was just not having a good time with this, and just these memories and these nightmares really of her growing up within this. And then as she became an adult, she just separated herself, even though she's sort of still connected with her dad. They don't speak. They're just kind of caught off. One of the early scenes, you see these two FBI agents kind of question Kristen Stewart's like, what's going on? Have you talked to your dad? Where's your mom? And she's like, I have no fucking clue.
They're trying to just fish her to become like a CI or something.
Yes, absolutely. Because they know that like she was part of it at one point in time, and she's distanced herself so much. They're like, maybe we'll get this. Maybe we'll get him. And that they sort of end up being quite you know, it's interesting. The trailer kind of posed it in a different way, and I didn't realize that the agents ended up really being sort of a villain in the whole film in a lot of ways with the way these characters interacted with it, because all these characters, like your protagonists, are not all great people. You know, they kind of just they're all, it's like that misery loves company, that they're like in that way. They're just not, you know, didn't come from good places. Even Jackie, she comes from, you know, I'm assuming because of her queerness, they don't really indicate. She's been kicked out of her family, and, you know, her mom wants nothing to do with her. So it is truly like people who are like desperate to find connection and desperate to find some sort of happiness, I guess. Yeah. And it works out kind of in the end, but they go through quite a few things in the long run.
It's definitely like, I would say that the three main movies we're talking about are an interesting tonal sandwich, where like Love Lies Bleeding and Challengers, I would say you largely walk away feeling like good and amped, where Civil War maybe less so. Yeah,
definitely more of a bleak imprint for sure.
I really loved Love Lies Bleeding on a rewatch. I really liked both of Rose Glass's two films. Interestingly, these three movies we're talking about, Dune's still my favorite movie of the year, but these are 4, 3, 2 in the order we're talking about, and I think they're all really strong. I don't know if Rose Glass has quite made her first masterpiece for me, at least, yet, but I could also see myself revisiting this or Saint Maud in like 5 years and deciding I'm wrong about that. And I think she's definitely like one of the people I'm most excited to see, like, whatever they do next.
For sure. I went back to my Letterboxd initially because I finally got to see, right before the Love Lies Bleeding, the premiere weekend and stuff here, they did get a screening of Saint Maud, and I didn't get to see it in the theater because of the pandemic, so it was really great to experience that on the big screen. And I've been a fan of Rose Glass since I first saw that film. I mean, I think the Letterboxd review was basically I'm here for anything she does. So I was extremely excited for this one, and it definitely it worked for me, and I think she's really, really one of the best right now in this kind of genre of weird indie little stuff. And I also love that she opened up her films the same exact way, kind of, where she loves bubbling liquid. And the Saint Maud opens up with like a saucepan, and you're zoomed in so much, you're like, what is this stuff? Till you come out, and the Love Lies Bleeding opens up with a toilet, and this backed up toilet that Kristen Stewart is sort of working through. But it was just really odd to see two things that are exactly kind of the same opening with the way she likes weird liquids, I think. But that's the fun thing about her, is she definitely is such a solidified filmmaker in what she's doing and knowing her subject matter, that, you know, even if overall she's not hitting the top for everybody, she knows what she's doing, and you know, her films look good. She knows what she wants, and they sound great too. I mean, both scores, you know, are incredible. This Love Lies Bleeding was done by Clint Mansell, which is obviously, he's one of the legends of legends, and you know, it's really cool stuff. And I'm excited to see her journey continue.
Yeah.
I'm not as familiar with her. I have not seen Saint Maud, so this is my debut of seeing her, and I was very impressed. I liked the tone of the movie, that like it was very like difficult to pull off, but you know, I liked that it was a queer love story, but that really wasn't what it was about.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, because there's like a little tiny bit with Katie O'Brien, but even that's like, it's more about her alienation with the family, and then because Kirsten Stewart also has alienation from her family, but it basically has nothing to do with that. It has to do with all this other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, if this was, you could do the exact same movie with a straight couple, and then you would never have to like discuss their relationship and what it means. And I like that they did the exact same thing with this couple. And you know, you don't.
Yeah.
The biggest like discussion of it is actually with Ed Harris. Like, Katie O'Brien asked Kristen Stewart, like, "Oh, does your dad not talk to you because of that?" He's like, "No, she doesn't really care about that." And I actually thought it was very interesting that, like,
he's just a scumbag
to
for
like
other
make
reasons.
his character as the villain also hateful of that, you know, like, and I like that. It was like, that's just not really who he is, and like that.
Well, that's scummy Dave Franco, who's great. He's the one who's mad about that, and Ed Harris is a more sophisticated villain.
I do kind of wish we got a different Franco though for this, just the purpose of what actually happens as a revenge part of it.
I'm okay with it.
The wrong Franco got, oh, I love that happened, but I would only want a sequel so we can get James Franco to have that happen again too. But I'm happy with what we got.
The gals are great. I think maybe this is a weird thing to theorize about, but like the whole time I'm like, lose the top. I feel like especially because we see those in a lot of those scenes. You're disagreeing with me.
Lose the top as far as like be topless in the sequences?
No. Like in the relationship.
Oh, who's the top? I understand. I'm like the way you said that, I'm like, wow, that's a really
No, yeah, I thought you said lose the top, and I was like,
yeah, like, man, the whole time I'm like, baby, you got to lose that top. I was like, huh. That's a different take than I had. I understand what you're saying now. Yes.
No, I think
who is the top and who is the bottom is their dynamic. Yes.
Yeah. That was something that, like, watching it again, I'm like, that's what's going on.
I mean, Kristen Stewart's the top.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
That's what I'm saying. 100%.
Yeah.
I think Jackie's maybe more of a switch, but like I think in this relationship, I think she plays it more of that, and I think it's interesting though because there's some fun things that like you can tell are different from that. Even the way like she loves to make breakfast for Katie O'Brien's character, and that kind of thing.
Also, get very explicitly moments where that happens because this is a very like a pretty sexual film in certain ways, especially compared to weirdly I think like Challengers, even though kind of marketed on that a little more, this is probably a little more explicit in a lot of ways.
I'd say extremely more explicit. Like,
and I think especially because of the queerness that it goes into, because it is showing a dynamic that's much different than just some cis het relationship. And I thought that because Rose Glass is bisexual, and I think that was the interesting thing about like her knowing the content of what we're doing. And that's why I think, like Scott, you said that wasn't the focal point of the queerness. And I think that's the best thing. And that's where that's where I feel like we're making progress, is that it's not this, hey, like, look at us, look what we're doing.
No, I thought it was
there's
rad.
been a few other, there's been a few other queer films.
Important film. They weren't trying to market it that way.
And it was used in a way that was kind of like interesting thematically. I thought a lot about how the placement of some of the scenes of like, when they're like throwing all the stuff in that giant crevice in the the sort of Freudian subtext of some of that stuff of that giant crevice. And my friend was pointing out about how they're just like throwing away all these eggs. And some of the placement of those scenes with some of the sex scenes I thought was interesting, and like I wonder how intentional that was.
I feel like probably a lot, because she's really good with that kind of thing. Like I know that she's a big David Lynch fan, and there's definitely a lot of nods to that. There's some driving sequences where the way they're showing the highways and the lighting of it, and I mean, not that that's a Lynch staple, but it is something he's done pretty often, and I know she's a fan, and I don't know, it's cool to see that kind of more. I'm not trying to go and do something, but it's to copy this person. It's really my own voice with it. And I think that's the biggest thing with Rose Glass films. I truly feel like I'm getting a voice of somebody that's just knows what they're doing fully.
Yeah. I also felt very early Coens, especially towards but not in a way that like was just, I'm trying to rip off the Coen brothers. But,
right.
But just like that, going to that land, but in your own voice.
Sure. And that's what we all look for, obviously, with new filmmakers.
I wanted to talk a little bit about spoilers about the movie. Before, I was going to say, this is kind of an unrelated thing. I had like a thing I was just going to put here, but it has nothing really to do with this movie and more to do with like my thoughts about certain queer stuff in media right now. Like, I'll do the short version, which is that, I've seen people like criticize talking about like the X-Men specifically. Give me a second. Maybe this won't be as short. Maybe I'll just do it.
The new X-Men?
X-Men in general.
In general, okay.
Talking about how the metaphor of them standing in for whatever group doesn't work because the X-Men are actually dangerous. And I think that like it's a fair point if it was real, but it's a story, and specifically I think in the story it represents the way that people do think that queerness, that whateverness is dangerous. and
Yeah.
you know, whether or not it is, because people can control that kind of stuff, or not control. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Like there is like a, you know, people coming in and shaking things up in ways that people don't want. And I was
Sure.
just, maybe I'm just X-Men brained at the moment too, but I was thinking about that a little bit when watching this as well, about how I find there's like a weird, I don't know, that's like a weird media literacy thing too, where I'm like, I don't really understand why people are taking that, having that take, but I don't know. I'm talking out my asshole. I didn't really have like, some of these points are kind of rambly, I gotta be honest. But all right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, just suffice it to say that, like, I don't know, I think that X-Men are cool. Let me put up the spoilers thing. Franco gets his fucking face smashed in, and
Franco gets fucked up hard. Yeah.
yeah, I think on the first watch I really loved the first half, and the second half I do think there's like a couple of like pacing things. I wish I could, like, it's one of those things where like I don't know. This is like most movies, I feel like there's always like a little thing like I could figure out. There's even something for Challengers, as much as I love it, there's like one specific thing I would be like, do this differently. And but those are pretty nitpicky. I thought it was funny that there's this moment at the end for people who haven't seen the movie and who are not put off by the spoilers, where when confronted by her dad in kind of a final shootout, Jackie becomes like huge, like just fully. She doesn't like Hulk out, so to speak, like not really, because she's still like proportionally the same. It's almost like she just becomes like a giantess, like the 50-foot tall woman or something.
Yeah.
And she comes and she grabs the dad and splits him in half. And then there's this shot, I had a gif of it in the opening, where they like roller skate away. And I think there was like a weird amount of discussion about that going on, because like clearly it's supposed to be like a metaphor, but it's all
metaphor, because even when she starts doing the steroids, you see these transitional sequences where you see these muscles moving, and like she'll be in something, and like obviously that's not happening, you know, but obviously I think it's just to show the metaphor of the intensity of what's going on, which I thought was interesting. It was unique. I mean, it was one of those, I can't say I've seen something like that.
Yeah. Jay from Red Letter Media did post online that I thought was funny. It's like kind of funny to consider. It's kind of funny to think about it as if that all actually did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are all my Love Lies Bleeding takes and my embarrassing X-Men rant that I might end up cutting, or certainly cutting down for YouTube.
You're fine.
I don't think it was embarrassing. It was just kind of pointless.
Well, I almost tried to explain this Love Lies Bleeding frame by frame.
Yeah, that's true.
So we both had our moments, you know.
That had a good punchline though, which was us being like, "Hey, we've never described something this much before."
Yeah, I just kept going, and I was consciously realizing what I was doing, and I was like, "Man, I'm only in like the first 3 minutes here."
We got to figure. we have to all forgive ourselves for everything. Scott, you have to do something embarrassing too.
Yeah, please, just to make it all.
But unless we got more Love Lies Bleeding stuff,
I could go on for days, but it definitely is more, you know, spoiler category and territory that we get into with it. But yeah, I think it's an incredible film, and you know, definitely see it. Like I said, I saw it 6 times, and I ended up going. It was fun. The one thing I will say is it was interesting, because there is, when Dave Franco gets destroyed, it is something that turns right into body horror, which is really cool. And Connor and I, we were there with Casey for the Egyptian screening with a Q&A with Katie and the whole cast, pretty much the whole cast. And then you know, then the following 2 days later, I ended up going to the LA premiere. And what was interesting is the Egyptian screening was American Cinematheque, so a lot of them were genre people, and you know, they see a lot of wacky shit. So it was like that body horror sequence didn't really freak anybody out. But at the premiere, it was definitely a little bit more of a mixed bag crowd, and
Mhm.
the freakouts that happened during that sequence was pretty intense and kind of fun to see. That it was like I was with a friend who's a super horror fan as well, and I said to her, I'm like, I'm really glad that you don't do this, because it is just a pure like jump freak out that I wouldn't have thought of. So it's fun to see though.
Yeah. No, that is fun. Let me. Scott, do you want to do Civil War or Challengers? And I'll do the other one.
Hey, sorry, my internet froze for a second. Yes, the plot of what are we doing? Civil War?
Yeah. I got the guy. Behind
Okay,
me.
Civil War.
Steve, my buddy.
Nice. It takes place in a like alternate reality / future of the United States. Sort of the waning days of a civil war in the country, and we are following four photojournalists who are determined to get a shot and interview of the American president before he is forcibly removed from office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a I think it's 2 photojournalists and 2. I think the dudes are not photojournalists. I think they're like interview people.
Okay.
And
yeah. And I know McKinley. He's a New York. He's at the last to left of New York Times.
Something
basically,
like that.
He represents all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically it's Kirsten Dunst, and that's the only actor whose name I don't know, but the lead guy Joe. Kirsten Dunst and Joe are like basically like a team, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
She's photos, he's print. And Steven is like an old pro that they're friends with, and Kaylee Spaney is a young, trying to get her start photojournalist. And
really great way they introduced that to her character.
Yeah, and it's a road trip movie. 100%. It's basically just a road trip with the 4 of them through like a nightmare dystopia, like war torn United States. And it's funny, back to back last week we had Kirsten Dunst. She's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also thought this was really great. Great cast.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
I just watched Devs, and it's fun like rewatching it and being like, oh, look at all of them, because I knew Nick Offerman obviously, and Kaylee and Steven, but the sniper and spotter also.
Yep. Yeah. The actual sniper was he was in that first 2 episodes or whatever.
Yeah. The
Devs. Yeah. He's the boyfriend who gets killed.
No, that's the spotter. The sniper is the other male lead.
Oh, right. The one that she goes to after. The ex-boyfriend. Yes.
And then she's the like British embedded reporter in the last third. And then Nick Offerman, obviously.
Right. I love Devs. I'm glad you finally saw it. It's fantastic, Scott.
Really
it's
good.
on you now. It is fantastic.
On me.
It did come out in the pandemic, but it's something to not miss. And Alex Garland he hits, man.
Also, my fave celeb couple, legitimately my favorite celebrity couple.
Beyond, yeah. And he, Christ, his little miniature appearance. I mean, that was the darkest turn and darkest bit of that entire film was when Jesse Plemons decided to show us up. I wonder how that went as far as casting. If it was Kristen being like, "Hey, come on, baby."
Actually, that's exactly how it went.
Is that how it went? Yeah.
Apparently, they had an actor and he was not available, for whatever reason. And Kirsten was just like, I know a guy. I wonder if Jesse's a guy. And he's amazing. Like, not his scene is honestly, this is slight spoiler, sorry. He's only in the scene that we see him in all the trailers and all
right.
That's his only scene. But it's amazing that like the marketing was almost rotated around that one scene. Like every single ad I saw showed at least one clip of him.
Yeah.
And it's one of those performances, honestly, like in the same way of like Judi Dench in Shakespeare in Love, where like I could see it getting an Oscar nom despite it being only 5 minutes of screen time, because it takes
It
this whole
was
film to another level.
it was the most evil thing that I think we saw for sure.
I think the only thing that would prevent that is I don't think he's technically credited for the movie.
Oh,
Really
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. No, it's uncredited.
interesting. Yeah, because I just remember early on, I definitely had looked and I knew that he wasn't top billed because I was excited and I know everybody was else like Jesse Plemons is going to be good, and I recognized early that he wasn't in it, but I didn't realize he didn't even get a credit. That's wild. That literally is just, hey, I'm doing you a favor, hon, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a favor that is, and, you know.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's a wild ass scene. Afterwards, when they're in the car and Kaylee Spaney just like limply throws up, like I was like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah, I get it.
yeah. And then segue into like just what then they're dealing with McKinley. Just
Yeah,
spoiler, but he's done. Yeah, and we knew that. I mean, honestly, you see him cast in a film like this, that guy's gonna die in a not
Yeah.
good way. And that's, I think Josh, he said that to you right after. He was like, you just knew, that wasn't gonna go well for him. But fantastic screenplay.
Yeah.
Obviously, everything time he was on, he was great.
you definitely do kind of know that if any of the four of them is gonna eat
Yeah.
it,
Oh yeah.
it's going
gonna
to be him. I will say the fact that he ate it and there was still so much of the movie definitely
Yeah,
signaled
yeah.
to your brain that, oh, someone else is probably going to eat it, and that we won't talk about.
Yeah. And that was really, really well done too. I really liked that, the way it did end in that sense of what happened. So
Yeah, it's a bummer if Garland is truly done, as he says.
I
he
agree.
is.
Here's the thing though. He is. I know the big thing now is that he's going. He's teaming back up with Danny Boyle. Cillian Murphy's going to be involved. They are making the sequel to 28 weeks later, or 28 years later. Is that what
Yeah.
we're doing now?
Really,
I think it's
I'm-
28 years later. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm hyped. I mean,
Well-
like that is. I mean, that was my first taste of Alex Garland was 28 Days Later, and
Well, Weeks Later was this will
The
be
sequel.
the third movie.
Yeah.
Technically.
this will be the third. Yes, this is years. I forgot we
is-
just bypassed months because it's been so long.
It is a little fucked up that it's not 28 months later, but I'll deal with it.
I think with the amount of time, like I said, it's sort of like,
Yeah, I
you guys
get it.
passed that window of months.
But
It's
I
been
also
a
I will be
long-ass
curious
time.
to see how much it is. Like, I understand it's like how much it'll have to do with the sequel, because they weren't really involved in the sequel. I don't know if they were
No.
maybe producers on it and stuff, but I know they
Yeah, they didn't write, and he didn't
Write or
and
direct
it. Yeah,
It's not bad.
but
it's not bad.
to
Though.
hear no, it's not. It's actually got some. It's interesting. It came at that time. I remember where all those like POV shots and that stuff was really starting to become like Wreck, and all those movies were starting to become popular. And I remember there was one sequence. I think it was like they went into like an underground subway or something that was pretty terrifying. I thought it was good.
It's kind
Definitely
of
not 28 days later, but
it's kind of like how I will always be annoyed that Land of the Dead isn't called like Dusk of the Dead or Twilight of the Dead. Because while not as good as the previous three films, that movie is underrated and 100% fits the like progression format of the other movies, where it like leaps forward this exponentially larger amount of time and examines some other aspect of society. But anyways, Civil War. It's interesting because we're talking about speculative fiction, which is what this is. And I
Yes.
thought it was interesting how, you kind of got this a little bit with Men, actually way more with Men, honestly, his previous film, where people were like, I hope she sees this, Alex, which is funny. But also, like, I think, there's similar accusations of this being kind of limply neoliberal, which I think are pretty shallow. I
think that's super shallow, actually.
Yeah.
Because even though we're doing what we're doing, he doesn't touch on anything that actually has to do with our current world.
Not really.
And and I think that's where the people who see a trailer or read a headline come in with their opinions. But if actually seeing it, there's nothing in that reminds us of today, weirdly enough. And I appreciate that. But it also does show a side of something that could potentially happen. And that's the interesting thing, but not as on the nose that really this day and age especially would probably happen more, where we get that film that's like, oh no, we're going to do some weird little joke or something.
Like
Well,
Eli
kind of
Roth's
the
version
idea-
of Civil War.
Totally.
Which, to be fair, Eli Roth's version of Civil War, which to be fair, I would like to see. But
Yeah, you're an apologist. We learned that several podcasts ago. That,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
still think that.
I think this film was more like, it wasn't political in the sense of like a snapshot of today, because I think that gives it a
Right.
like very small shelf life. But
Absolutely.
I think more than anything, this was a movie about like what it would be like for America to live in a war zone,
Mm-hmm.
which is something a lot of people, myself included, if I'm being honest, think could never happen or like is unlikely to happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's far more interested in that and how we would deal with it and what it would be like. And
And to the degree that it is political, it's more about journalism and the role that it plays in that stuff and the way that we can like separate ourselves from atrocity a lot of the time. It really isn't at all about division in America or both sides being bad or any of that kind of stuff.
And that was some of the the negative reviews I read were like, oh, there's no plot, there's no this, there's no that, it didn't do anything, and it's just like, no, you're just not watching everything it is doing, because it's literally going through so much about how important that is. And and even Kirsten Dunst, who's saying like, I have shot the craziest shit ever, where like she's just every night tormented with these nightmares of what she's seen, but it is nothing more than a job to her, because I think she phrased at one point, or one of them is, until it's in print, it doesn't exist, it doesn't happen. I think it might have been McKinley who says that, but it showed how much that importance the job was, and like they were willing to give everything up for the ability to just record something in history.
Yeah, I feel like time will be kind to
absolutely,
to that reception, just because like that feels like a very of the moment knee-jerk sort of reception.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm glad it didn't do those things.
And I will say A24, I don't think they like pushed that, but they had no problem like people thinking that's what they were going to see.
Yes.
And,
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, it's great marketing. I said like like in the same way with like similar to like Love Lies Bleeding, like this movie, you could have had this movie take place in a different country and still have it about like the fall of the dictatorship. I picture like Alex Garland pitching this movie, going like, "Hey, I want to do a movie about war journalists and like the responsibility of photojournalism to like their citizens," and the studio going like, I don't know, and then going like, "Oh, by the way, did I mention the war is happening in America?" And then going like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
And then he's like, California and Texas are going to be one, and just heads explode in the boardroom.
Yeah, I mean, like the marketing, you saw all the. It was shitty that some of it was the AI shit, but like, just like the tanks and shit in going down New York, or the barricade on the Statue of Liberty. Like, I thought the visual marketing was great. It sold
and everything with DC in that end. I mean, I think Scott, you right after we saw it, I think that was the first thing you said to me. It was just like, oh man, that the way that DC and everything looked in those final sequences was incredible.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be spoiler territory.
Well, I mean, at least I'll say that we know we're on a trip toward DC. That's all I can say. I guess I'll say that that's where the road trip is going.
Well, I was just going to say that, like, yeah, I mean, what you're talking about, I think setting it in America, that's what makes it, speculative fiction, and what makes it
absolutely
gives it its specific potency, I think.
Not that
I don't think you're disagreeing with that, but it's on the surface level, the story could be set anywhere.
It wouldn't have been as thrilling.
It's like if you did Audition and she didn't do all that shit at the end. You know what I mean? Sure. like that's what gives it that that umami that like makes it.
She just comes home and makes dinner for them both, and just
so maybe she just like kills him in like a normal way that like a normal person, because like you can see a version of Audition that
where she just like shoots him. Yeah,
that's the same story that I could like show to my mom or something. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think that until that twist, it is like a rom-com, really.
But I was gonna say before we talk about any spoiler thing, in case we do, because I think I'm good actually. I don't, because it is that kind of movie that I feel like Love Lies Bleeding, you're doing direct things that are like, it's actually gonna kind of mess that up. But here it's really sort of a pathway of just these journalists going on a big road trip, and the end point is DC. But that outside of that, we don't really have to even go into further. Yeah, it ends in this giant kind of shootout in DC, and it's the sound design, I think, is the big that is what made this movie is so incredible. I think what's so interesting too, and I think this is also the worst version of the movie, is that you know, the action, so to speak, is fluid. It's photographed in a way you can understand what's happening, but the sound design is so unrelenting that it, like, and I think this is 100% purposeful. It's not fun. Like, towards the end, Kirsten Dunst becomes like overwhelmed with all the gunfire, and you kind of feel that yourself, especially especially that first time in the Vista, because that sound system is really good.
Yeah. I saw it the first time in the Dolby, and for that exact reason, like I knew it was going to be a good sound design, and it, yeah, incredible. Like it was relenting in a way where it almost got you, you know, as the viewer, just completely disoriented almost.
Yeah.
And then to the aid to the sound design, just because I have to mark out to them, and I have for every one of the projects that Alex Garland's had them on. But Ben Salisbury and Jeff Barrow, they just make incredible scores. They've done pretty much everything since Ex Machina, I believe, including Devs. And Ben Salisbury and Jeff Barrow have been working on a bunch of other stuff together for years. Jeff Barrow, if anyone doesn't know, is from the legendary band Portishead. But yeah, he's been doing it forever, and anything those guys do, I'm down for.
Nice. I'm going Civil War if y'all are.
So yeah, totally.
Just a couple of things. Since we talked about the shootout, I will say, like, that shootout was next level. Like the ending.
That's where the budget really, I think, really.
Yeah, like we were talking about how, like, most of the movie, it's a road trip from, I think, New York to DC, and it's like mostly fields in a small town. Like, you get the feeling like, okay, they shot in Atlanta or something.
They did, yeah.
That final raid feels like they just attacked the White House and happened to bring some cameras. Like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it is a sight to behold. Like, it is like you said, like the entire budget goes to it, but like you can feel it, and not in a bad way. Like, I like the rest of the movie, but like,
oh no, it wasn't like a dump of pyro. It was like
that
very calculated.
Final, like, just whole, it really does take the movie up to the next level. And yeah, you're right, it's not fun, but it is just like, what an ending. What an ending.
No.
And another, like, supporting character that really had an impact on me was Nick Offerman as the president, who is only in 2 scenes, but I thought captures that. You know, they compared him, honestly, you know, not to American politicians, but like Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein, and I thought he actually captured that, like, strong man perfectly. And
well, I love the way it opens with him sort of practicing his speech, and just that's where you're seeing that element of, like, what the act, and he's just rehearsing his lines for the delivery, and that's really, really cool way of introing it. And yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
I don't even think they framed his face even in that opening. It was just him sort of like doing it to himself, and you could just hear him going through his
I don't think they frame it until he, like, actually gives the speech.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is great. That's great.
I you know, the random, like, because as a road trip movie is, road trip movies obviously are structured around the main characters meeting a bunch of side characters and sort of having experiences with them. And I think the one that stood out to me, it's an early one, but that dude at the gas station who's just, like, showing off to Kaylee Spaney, like, who's that guy? And, like, what did Alex Garland say to him to get that weird performance where he's just like,
so weird,
he just like has the gun and he's just like, I'll stand with him.
But that was my favorite thing is where Kirsten Dunst, like, it's super creepy to the point where you're like, oh man, is somebody about to be assaulted? This is gonna go weird quick. And then the way Kirsten Dunst was just like, no, get in front of it. You want a picture? And, like, he went into, like, every mode of human being, like, in front of a camera, like, oh yeah, I'll do my picture. Yeah. And then, like you said, there's just a you know, assault weapon in his hand, and he's posing with it. It was wild.
It's weird because you can imagine that she probably had done that exact same move to alleviate tensions before, where, like, she is there with maybe another journalist who's uneasy about something going on, and there's a danger with that unease, but the second she's like, hey, can you pose, can I take a picture with you, the guy would immediately go like, oh, okay, whatever, they're just, like, here to take pictures. You know.
Well, also, like, not only just they're here to take pictures, but it also kind of suddenly, like, I'm going to be in a magazine. You know, like,
it's like the guy with their big fish or something.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's exactly what it felt like, and it was a change of just his entire, you know, composure changed for that 1 second, and then of course Kaylee Spaney, like, her next sequence, she freaks out because she didn't take a single shot. And that, that was kind of the cool thing. Again, what, the difference of the veteran versus rookie and what Kirsten had been through. Clearly, it did a really good job of that element of like trauma for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also there's something about the vibe of that dude too that reminds me of like, this is clearly like one of the dumbest people in his hometown, and now he's like posted up
yeah
at the local gas station, and that's probably how that kind of stuff happens.
Honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, really good movie.
Absolutely.
And I think all of these three main movies we're talking about are going to be, and honestly, two of the other movies are going to be like up there for me at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But
and all three we're talking about, like, you guys know sound is my biggest thing with film, and like these three are just fucking bangers with everything from the sounds, original, the drops, the whole design, just really fantastic across all three.
All right, I'm gonna toss up Challengers. This is a screenshot of the screenwriter from his famous Potion Seller video.
All right.
Okay.
I'll circle back around to this later because I know you guys don't know Potion Seller. Potion Seller is a like fundamental YouTube text in my brain. Challengers is a movie about Zendaya and a twunk and an otter, and a three-way relationship that they have over like 15 years, and the kind of ups and downs of it. And it's about tennis, it's about sexual relationships, it's about romance, it's about friendship. I guess to get a little more specific, Zendaya is Tashi Duncan, and it kind of cuts back and forth, but we find out that, she was like this really great junior tennis player who injured her knee. She was involved with these two friends. Their names Art and Patrick. Art is the twunk, Patrick is the otter. Patrick was dating her for a while when they were younger. Art is now married to her in the future, and the whole movie is kind of framed around this tennis match, like the first tennis match they've had in years. And the movie keeps kind of cutting back and forth in the tennis match, in a pretty in a kind of surface level, but in a way that totally works for how bombastic the movie is. The tennis match kind of represents the ups and downs of her relationship with the two guys and their relationship with each other. And this movie fucking rips. I love this movie.
I mean, structurally, I love the way it is because it's like giving you that, using that, the catalyst of that match. I just love the way it's like, we're going to tell the story, giving you bits and pieces at a time, but only doing these like back, we're going back in time or whatever they are at various points. That it felt different than I've seen with a lot of those, like, we're just going to show what happened. Like, it structurally just felt like it was very, 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 very like nuanced in the sense of how it was moving.
Yeah,
it felt more like a novel, just in the way they were jumping through time.
I will say that's my one I was mentioning earlier. I'll give the one critique. I wish when they cut back the first time to 13 years later when they were younger, they stay there for a while, and then they cut back again when they have the scene where they set up the signal, which we won't spoil how that resolves. And I wish they hadn't have used, I think it's annoying. This is such a pet peeve. This is such a small thing, but when somebody reuses a title card in a movie for something that we should just be able to assume, and so the fact that they say 13 years ago again a second time when they go back, that's the one thing I'm like, get that title card out of there. But that's like, so I'm an insane person for thinking about that. But this movie makes me hard. I'd let any of these three top me. Zendaya's on fire. I assume if she made a third movie this year, it'd be my third favorite of the year, I feel like, at this point.
I mean, she's a complete boss. I mean, this is her movie completely. And like I said to you guys, that I think she should have been Paul Atreides.
Yeah. Hey, gender swap it. I'm cool with it.
I'm into it.
Or just fuck it. Have her be She can play a guy. Timothy can play a girl. Whatever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, easily.
It's not like Paul
and then
Atreides
once
is
again,
famous for having facial hair.
that is true. Yeah. And the biggest thing that moved the pacing really, really obviously is that score. I mean, Trent and Atticus and the remix tracks by Boys Noise, just fucking unreal.
Been bumping it.
I mean,
last couple
if
weeks.
you literally took anything out, like if you took that music out and put anything else in it, the film would just be so incredibly different and would feel just so slow. But this thing just, it rips.
Yeah, the score, it's interesting because like I think Luca knew that 100%, knew that he needed that driving score, and apparently asked Trent, was like, give me a dance album.
I mean, obviously they worked together with Bones and All.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a great establishment of it. Yeah, so I'm sure it was a pure this is exact tone we're looking for, and Trent Atticus obviously delivered quite well.
Yeah, it got to the point, like, I was just wondering, like, when I thought about the movie later, did I love the movie or did I just love the score? And, like, but I think you're absolutely right, where, like, well, the score is part of the movie, and, like, Luca knew what he was doing. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if it would have worked. Yeah, because these scenes might have been slower, or just hit differently. But
because there's a lot of slow movements, and the camera shots, the way it works, is a lot of slowness to the visual. So having that like real crazy up tempo shit just really, really rules.
And especially, there's a couple of scenes specifically that I imagine would just play so totally, like the scene in the dorm between Zendaya and Josh O'Connor. Patrick, where they get into the argument, and then because the first half of it is this kind of pre-sex, they're like kind of getting into it and starting to have sex, and then they start having an actual argument, and when the argument starts, a track from Trent and Atticus starts, and the entire scene is done in like one long shot. I don't know if it was like, if it's a faux one shot, it might be where they there might be some cuts in there, but aesthetically,
it looked amazing. I mean, it looked really good. This whole film looked really good.
Yeah, I always find it weird when someone's like, well, technically they didn't film that in one shot. And it's like, well, it's more about the like aesthetic and effect of how it works.
I'd rather have a good looking sequence than a shitty oneer. I mean, like,
Yeah, what are you
oneers are great. Oneers are great when you actually pull them off. Right.
Trying to make Russian arc over here, you motherfuckers. And there's some wild shots in this movie, especially some of the tennis stuff.
The ending, especially, it was like pure experiment zone with camera work.
Yeah. I know some people who thought it was a little silly by the end, which I think it's okay. Like, I think by that point the movie has like earned this silliness.
Yes, yes.
If it had started with these shots, it would have been a little like, okay, Baz Luhrmann. But
dude.
Like, I was so into it and so like
hell yeah
just in this movie that like we can get those wild point of view of a tennis ball shots,
and that was incredible.
Underneath, like I was thinking about the Breaking Bad like shots where it's like underneath the court and you see like the painted lines of the court and then underneath it, or even some of how much of those like slow-mo, like this is definitely like, this is rivaling, I assume, Rebel Moon Part 2 for most slow-mo this year. And there's like that one really slow shot of Mike face of Art where he's like hovering over the camera and like the sweat is just like dripping down. And I think it's like, it's funnier. I knew it was going to be funny, but like it's definitely funnier than you think. It has maybe one of the best boner jokes I've ever seen in a movie. And
the physical approach,
the physical boner gag, the slap heard around the world,
certainly,
and reminds me of Phantom Thread. I think that's definitely the like movie I would compare it the most to.
That's fair. I like that. Yeah,
but it's a much more energetic, I would say, movie.
Oh yeah.
That's funny. Definitely more. Yeah,
Johnny Greenwood is scoring some much slower shit over there in that camp for sure.
Yeah.
I was sort of thinking of oddly enough, Broadcast News. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Yeah.
But that was another like love triangle where like there's emotion involved, but like it kind of all goes away because like as it goes away to the thing that there's their true passion. All three of their true passion. In this movie, it's tennis. In Broadcast News, it's doing the news. But it's a weird way in which, like, in this movie, it's the tennis match of how, like, weird way of how they all work together. In broadcast news, there's like an emergency live report that the three of them have to do together that you kind of get the same, and that happens in the middle of the movie. But yeah, it's a movie about like professionals and like how that, like, as complicated as their life is, it in a weird way becomes quite simple when they focus on the true thing that they love, which is for all of them tennis.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, and it makes tennis really cool. And obviously it's like, it's not really, it's about tennis, but it isn't really about tennis. You know what I mean? In the same way that broadcast news isn't really about the news. It's about this relationship between these three people. And
yeah, but in both cases, I'd say it, like, especially broadcast news, but this too, like, showed an interesting inside look in tennis.
Yeah.
Like as much as it's not about tennis, it does very bring you into that world in a way that, like, I don't follow tennis, so I didn't know how any of it worked. So
same. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and even they were good at sort of explaining it for dummies. Where you realize, okay, no, we're really in the final, not like the fake final.
Yeah.
And even the game, like, just what exactly, because, like, I understand a little bit about tennis, but just like different moves and strategies. And by the way, the ref for their game, is phenomenal.
You know
really
the story
good.
about that?
I do not know the story.
That is Zendaya's assistant, who Luca specifically wanted to be that role and asked Zendaya, was like, hey, would it be cool if your assistant is the ref? Because I think he would be great for it. And he is.
That's
He
amazing.
is. He
That's
absolutely is. No, I mean, he's so memorable, and he literally never leaves that chair.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably the character with like the fourth most amount of screen time.
Probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's so sassy and yet, like, has this authority and, like,
right.
Like,
yeah, they get all of the, like,
these,
technical
like,
fouls when they curse or like break their racket.
Yeah, I mean, it's just these two, like, sweaty dudes, just like, so emotional, and he's just kind of like, children, stop, we're here to play a game.
I liked him, and I liked the lines keeper one, the one that she had been. She's the one who checked him in when they first got to it, and then like was on site for the U.S. Open years ago or whatever.
Yeah,
she was great. I really liked her a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I've seen people talk about how they thought the, like, marketing was misleading, which is interesting. I guess people thought there was going to be like a full-on Zendaya sex scene or something. But I don't know. Like, I feel like
I honestly
I got
maybe the word of mouth
exactly
too. Yeah, because I almost read it more than I saw it, and kind of going into it. Like I went in pretty blind, because other than what we ever saw in trailer previews before other things, but yeah, I feel like the word of mouth wanted it to be some like sexualized threesome thing.
Well,
but
I don't know, like,
there's aspects of that for sure.
Especially because we're talking about Love's Live Bleeding, or like, this movie is definitely sold on, like, the sexiness.
Yeah.
Just like, it's like an erotic romance and stuff. And it's honestly rather chaste, certainly compared to Love's Lives Bleeding, which is very just erotic, and like the sex scenes are explicit, and I don't think in a way that's like exploitative, but for adults. And it seemed like a lot of buildup. I think it was the point, but not a lot of release. Like, tennis is the release.
Yeah.
But,
Yes. Yeah.
like, as far as actual sex goes, like
my mom would like this movie.
Idea of a very sexy movie, you know what I mean? Like a young person's idea of like a very sexualized movie, because
I mean, I think it is a very sexy movie, but it's not a very explicit, sexually
sexy
explicit
and sexually explicit. Yeah, that's
It's sexy in a different way, I guess, but like it's not that sexual. Like
it's sexy in a way that your parents can like, I think, especially if they're okay with like bisexual stuff. Like, if they're a weirdo about that, like, well, I'm not gonna get into that. Let's just say my mom would like it. My mom would be okay with it.
There is one sequence where if you're a homophobe, I guess it's probably not going to be your cup of tea. But fuck you, anyways.
I imagine if you're a homophobe, you probably aren't going to find yourself in this movie anyway.
No, I would say not. No.
You despite that scene.
Let me explain what's going on here. So, years ago, this dude right behind me did a video that I love. People should go look up. It's just called Potion Seller, I think. And it's him. It's one shot, and he's using like the old, like that came with the first like round of like Max, the photo booth, the little like pinch screen, you know, you can see. And essentially it's a skit he's doing with himself where he's playing two characters. This character, the Traveler, and then Potion Seller, who's a much more like scrunched, big-eyed, small-mouthed character. And the entire sketch, it's like 3, 4, 5 minutes long. It's him going like, Potion Seller, I need your strongest potions. I am going into battle. Traveler, you cannot handle my strongest potions. But Potion Seller, I need your strongest potions. You cannot handle my strongest potions. They would kill you. And it's just a back and forth like that for minutes. And you can tell he's like kind of cracking up. And this is the dude who wrote the screenplay for Challengers.
Okay.
And he's also married to Celine Song, who wrote and directed Past Lives last year. What's going on in their relationship?
Right. Yeah. some trouble afoot, it might be.
Okay, yeah.
You're right what you know, I guess.
Who's the third? Who's the third? Are they gonna make a movie? I want to see it.
Probably Luca. Luca's in there. He's just like, hey.
Yeah, I wonder. And he's writing Luca's next movie too, so good for him. And married to Celine Song. Hey.
But I will just say that, like, Luca is. I got the opportunity to meet him after a screening of Suspiria, a few years back, and I went up to him after, and it was a really quiet audience, and I just thanked him for the film and how much I enjoyed it. And I've just never seen such a genuine, humble, like, real response, and he really appreciated it, and you meant it. And obviously we've interacted with enough people that when it's just a load of bullshit. But he's genuine, and I honestly one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life, and I will support him for anything for sure. And he's luckily made a bunch of great films. So
yeah. I want to briefly talk spoilers. I think Scott is your
Come here. Sorry, I had to plug him in.
Battery dying.
Yeah.
The signal, the thing, if early in the movie when they're young, 13 years ago, Patrick gives a signal to when Patrick is dating Zendaya, Patrick gives a symbol to Art when they're playing to let him know that he has had sex with Zendaya. And towards the end of the movie, we kind of get revealed that the night before this tennis match, they had sex again. She cheated on Art. And towards the end of the movie, Patrick gives the signal again to Art.
Yeah, the tennis ball at the stem. I don't know the term for stick of the tennis racket.
And which prompts Art to say like "fuck off," which gives him a penalty point. Such a good moment, such a good like, because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like like you can feel it like about to happen. You're like, oh fuck, this motherfucker. Especially like once Josh O'Connor like smiles, you're like, I know what this motherfucker is about to do. And such a good just like build and reveal. Yeah, I just love that moment. And
absolutely, it's great. I think that was the thing about the film with the nuances of it. It was like little things here and there that got thrown at us again that it's just really cool.
And
Josh O'Connor's performance is so interesting too, because like it's easy to like make him the villain, or it would be, but like you get the idea that he's doing all this out of love in a sick and twisted way.
Yeah. Well, in a weird way, it kind of ends happy for all three of them. Like, we were talking afterwards about, like, what are they getting out of this? And I think in a lot of ways, like, there's that bit early on where Josh O'Connor is talking to Mike Face, like, it's good to see you fired up about something, even if it is my girl.
Yeah.
And clearly what Mike Face is dealing with more than anything is a kind of, personal impotence in terms of like feeling he's going through the arc that Peter Parker in Spider-Man 2 is going through, where he just like feels lost in his life and what his purpose is. And clearly this thing, that's the thing that's the most Phantom thready, I think, about it, is this kind of adversity has given him this life. And obviously Patrick, I think, likes kind of being accepted in a weird way back into these people's lives, no matter what happens afterwards. And then obviously Zendaya just wants to see some good tennis.
Right. That's all she cares about. Literally all she cares about is tennis.
Like, look.
Well, that's
kind of the sidelines. I don't want to be bored.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of it, because that's the whole thing where it's like when she yells "come on" towards the beginning, and she did it because she like felt this connection between her and that opponent, and that's like the ending of the movie is her doing that again.
Yeah, totally.
Great stuff. Really terrific. All right, we good for challengers?
I think we're good.
Yeah, totally.
Briefly, what do I got next? My husband. I thought it was ripped. I wish it was less shaky and got to the midpoint sooner, but I think it's really cool that my future husband Dev Patel would choose this as his debut. Like directorial wise.
He did a lot of great things in it for sure for a directorial debut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dug it. I thought it was a lot of fun, although I saw it, I kind of forgotten about it since then.
Yeah.
Like,
I got to be honest. Yeah, same. I liked it, but didn't love it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be at my top by the end of the year.
No.
But it's worth checking out, and especially if Dev Patel wants to continue in this direction. He clearly has like some amount of the chops that I could see like in another 1 or 2 films he makes something like truly like a great action epic, because he clearly has the at least capability to like, you know, because I imagine doing this stuff is like a pain in the ass, and so he's clearly okay with that. So
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because the movie reminded me, this movie is much better than a similar movie that came out called Boy Kills World. And the action is very good in that, but it's similar to this. Like all this action kind of reminds me of The Raid. And Boy Kills World actually features Black Dog from The Raid, who has a similar arc in that like he's a villain who no one can beat on their own, so the two have to join forces to beat him eventually. This one was a lot better, but I've noticed like as much as I enjoy the action in these movies, and even when it's well done, it's kind of to the point where like, yeah, I think you're right, it is a pain in the ass, but I feel like there's some machine working, like it can be done under a certain budget, because I feel like I've seen these action movies now and these John Wick-esque like real brutal action, brutal fighting scenes, and I need a little bit more. Just real good action and real good fighting scenes aren't quite enough.
that's true.
But still entertaining, like not unentertaining, but yeah, maybe if they had better movies surrounding them, I think they'd be a bit more memorable. So,
speaking of memorable movies, JK, here's Kevin Durand. Abigail is definitely my least favorite of the movies we're talking about today.
Yeah, but still fun.
It's fun. I liked it. It's almost like better as a comedy than anything. Like I thought it was pretty funny. Like that was the big thing. I thought. Like
I agree. Yeah, totally. I mean,
like
they cast everybody else but her really well as far as just being completely incompetent and dumb.
Yeah,
it was well cast.
Yeah, incredible cast. I mean, I love Dan Stevens. Anytime I can get him, I do like Kevin Durand. Here, young Kevin Durand from Lost is what's behind me. Yeah, if anything, like a big issue with Abigail is just like the trailers kind of gave away too much. Like I never say that, but like they wait for a movie that gives this away. They wait so long for a movie that gives it away in the trailers. They wait so long in the actual movie to reveal like what's going on.
That's interesting. I haven't seen it, so
yeah. But you know what like it's about a little girl vampire, and
yeah.
it's an hour 40, and they probably don't reveal that until like 45 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
And
They set it up in a way of a heist, and it's just basically like a rich girl getting kidnapped by these, kidnappers, and they essentially have to survive the night just babysitting. Is how it's kind of pushed on them, and it looks like every sort of haunted house. What's going to happen? We're trapped inside of it, and that's when we sort of reveal in 45 minutes in, like you said, that she's a vampire, and
yeah,
shenanigans ensue.
And I would say none of the dramatic beats really work, but it's a fun movie if people like horror movies. It's probably a little too, I would say it is not, considering how not scary it is, because it's not really scary, it's probably a little too goopy in a way where, like, I almost think, like, as much as I appreciate the gore, I think about, like, what the audience for this movie is, and I think if it was, like, less gory in a weird way, it would probably find a bigger audience, because I think the tone that the rest of the movie is at this kind of level of, like, where, like, a lot more people could probably be into it. And the gore was very, like, brown and muddy, which I thought was weird. It looked like they were, like, in like gravy at the end or something.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't the best looking film overall, for sure.
But yeah, all right, let's move on to, I don't have a joke background for this one. I just wanted to represent her because I really wanted to get a gif of her for the opening, but I couldn't find one. But Vera drew the People's Joker. My number, the one that would be behind the ones we're talking about today, my 5 for the year at the moment. I love People's Joker. I would pitch it, if people don't know, I think it's three things intertwined, and I'll explain one of the things before I actually say it. It's kind of a Vera worked in Adult Swim for a long time, and it feels very like the kind of, I'm sure there will be more Adult Swim, Tim and Eric, Doug, I forget that guy's name, esque comedy stuff in the future, but this definitely feels like kind of the end point in a way where it's like, how can it get like wilder or more abstract or more cutouty or whatever than this, but it's this kind of like Adult Swim, modern style Adult Swim parody of Batman. It's a very tender and sweet story about the trans experience, and it's a very mean and angry story about the comedy world, which I think you can tell by the way that, like, each of those two stories, because those are kind of the main two actual stories of the movie, kind of have two. Have you guys both seen this? Or
I have not.
Just Brian?
Yeah, I caught it last year at Outfest, and then when we went, a few weeks ago.
I think it's funny that, like, they're kind of, antagonist is the wrong word, but, like, there are kind of two, like, opposing forces in both storylines. There's the mom and the boyfriend, and the trans, like, acceptance experience storyline, and then there's there's what's his name? There's Batman, and then there's Lorne Michaels.
Penguin. Yeah, Lorne Michaels, yeah.
And the other storyline
SNL.
as kind of the antagonist, so to speak. And the mom and the boyfriend are given so much grace. Like, they're clearly not good people, but they're also given, like, so much, like, room to be real people and people who have their own problems that have led to these problems, and all this kind of stuff. And then Lorne Michaels and Batman just get eaten by a big plant.
It's fucking great. It's so great.
Funny the way those two storylines, how like different, like, they play out in a certain way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I love this. I thought this was great. I do think that, like, in the way that something like Speed Racer on an aesthetic level is a lot for some people, this will be like a lot for some people. But I think for anybody who's, like, into it, they'll be really into it. Like this one a lot.
Yeah, I know
it's
it's
great,
playing
for
at
sure.
American Cinematheque a few more times, so I really hope to check it out.
Yeah, she's great, and I'm excited to see what she does next too.
Yeah.
But very glad that she finally got this out, because obviously,
all the bullshit,
the big thing with it, the bullshit and the tiff and all this stuff, and it's been funny seeing some of her Q&As because she makes it very known that that's still like here. I can't say certain things,
Yeah.
but it's funny, and I'm glad that she's now on the good side of it. That it's
Yeah, at the
it's where-
Q&A we were at, she mentioned that she couldn't she was like, clearly I love Batman and all this stuff, which my lawyers hate when I say, because
Yeah.
it makes them, it's like WB can be like, oh, she's just trying to do a Batman story without permission.
Yeah.
As if that like copyright isn't about to like expire soon, I believe. But I'm sure their grubby little hands are going to hold on to it as hard as they can.
And as long as they can, for sure. Yeah.
It's weird too, because watching it is so like, it's really hard, I think, to like, if Scary Movie and those movies can get away with some of the bullshit that they pulled off, like especially in those later like disaster movies. I think she even talked about this, how like a character just dressed up as Iron Man would like come out and do something like and be like, ho ho ho, fart, and then
Well, I mean, I think obviously like I think being a film for about a trans experience, I'm sure also plays a big part of it too, where it's just sort of like if it was that kind of a thing, but here it's like I'm not going to say Warner Brothers is transphobic, but like those boardroom meetings are not exactly always, I'm sure,
I think it's less, not saying that they aren't transphobic. I think it's less transphobia specifically and more just general prudishness.
Sure.
And it's the same reason that somebody, I forget who, had in a comic, it was like Batman eating out Catwoman, and they were like, Batman wouldn't do something like this. Batman wouldn't service his woman.
That was for the Harley Quinn animated series.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, there's weird about it. It's like how Disney wouldn't let that dad put Spider-Man on his kid's tombstone. But whatever. That definitely also feels like one of those things that, I'll be honest, to that dad, he probably, that's you beg forgiveness, not ask permission, but whatever.
Yeah, are you kidding me? Yeah. Because it's one thing to like, for Disney to say like, no, you can't put it on. But it'd be another thing for Disney to say like, we need you to take that grave, like to sue them for the grave that already exists. Like, good luck with that, Disney. Sure, I bet you could. You could probably win. But like, that's great PR.
Yeah.
And lastly, most recent thing I saw, which is only in LA and New York for the next week or so. Here's some monsters from Power Rangers.
Nice.
I saw the TV Glow, which I don't know what I went in thinking it would be. I definitely think marketing it as like a horror thriller is a mistake. I
agree and disagree. It's funny because I think, what is the word horror, obviously? And I think that's obviously, we've had this conversation plenty of times where it's like people are very singular with that thought, and and ultimately I felt the horror, but somebody else isn't going to feel it.
100%. I honestly, I know that and you specifically have been talking about David Lynch in connection to it, but and obviously there are specific things, like when they mention like the double lunch in each episode of the show within the show, like having like people playing at it, I was like, Jane
Schoenbrunn, who's the filmmaker, and she did they did, I'm sorry, I apologize, they did We All Go to the World's Fair recently. I didn't see that. I know I did some gender issues. I'm fucking canceled. Sorry, guys.
Gender crimes.
But they did come out and say that the return specifically of Twin Peaks was definitely a big inspiration for it. So, or was an influence.
Honestly, the thing that I thought of the most was Charlie Kaufman a lot during this.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that for sure.
And I think this is a movie that I would like a lot. This is also, I would say, like, along with People's Joker, Monkey Man and Abigail at the end of the year I won't be thinking about. This and People's Joker I will. And I think that, like, on a rewatch, I'll like this more. I don't know what exactly I thought I was going to get. I didn't think I was going to get a Charlie Kaufman thing, but to the degree that I thought I thought I was going to get maybe more of a, like, a Being John Malkovich. And it's more of a, like, I'm thinking of ending things when we're talking about in the spectrum of Kaufman, especially when we get to that ending, which we won't really talk about, because it definitely doesn't have, like, the kind of structure that most people would want out of a movie. And I do think that like going into the movie and not knowing that I wasn't going to get that, I realized it about halfway through, like, oh, okay, this is what the movie is. But though I almost wonder how the movie would play if you moved part of the bar scene to the beginning and had, you know, the bar scene where they're meeting up years later, and she's like, what the fuck is going, and he's like, whoa, like if you had part of that play at the beginning and then you cut back, I wonder how the movie would play. Maybe not better, but like that was, I was thinking about that a little bit.
It's hard to say because it does feel like it goes off in different directions. I mean, it's a film just completely covered with metaphor.
Yeah.
You know, and that I feel like it is definitely a film that goes over, you know, I think the New Yorker posted like a profound trans experience and you know, the going through that process. And I think it really is. And a lot of this film kind of has to relate with like knowing yourself and finding yourself and being too late maybe to find yourself. And a lot of that stuff kind of plays in. And, you know, I think people who are sort of discovering themselves, you know, myself included, that's something that plays a big factor, you know, and that's where I think I really resonated a lot with it.
Yeah, it definitely in a way though, like, no, but I think it, you know, I'm not going through like those exact same things, and not to take away from that, but like I felt a lot of that stuff too. Like I think that there's a lot of stuff going on here and a lot of honesty going on here, and I thought about,
for sure,
especially some of that stuff in that last sequence. I thought about like self-harm and the utility of that and people who are dealing with those kind of realities, those kind of oppressive everyday realities, which, you know, I'm not gonna get that into it on this podcast, this public podcast, but definitely resonated with me in certain ways. And but yeah, you know, and
an incredible score. It's really, really great. Phoebe Bridgers, makes an appearance in it.
Yeah,
it's great.
But yeah, some great movies. 2024. I mean, I know a lot of this is like hangover from the strike, so we'll see what the rest of 2024 has in store for us. But and speaking of that, hold on. It's Connor's Wicked Games, sponsored by Chris Isaac. Every week I like to play a little game like Jigsaw. Today, the 2020 forecast. I've got 20 upcoming 2024 films and 4 facts for each formatted as a forecast. I'll read them. First person to shout out the movie gets 1 point. Feel free to cut me off, though I'll probably still finish. And when I say forecast, like, you know, come on, like this is I try my best. There's so many times I had to think of different words. Like I was like, okay, I can use pattern so many times and like formation or whatever. But basically I'm going to read to you guys out loud a kind of like word riddle indicating a movie that is, as of now, scheduled to come out this year. And whichever one of you guesses first, shouts it out first, gets the point. And when I say also upcoming movie, almost all of these are like IP movies. There's a few that are movies from like, I would say, notable directors. First off, just shout it out when you know it. A gloomy fog moves in from Europe, carrying with it a 100% chance of Pennywise and 100% chance that Brian is gonna love it.
What the fuck is it? My brain just went completely blank. I'm trying to... Is it Terrifier 3?
No.
Because I'm trying to think of the clown angle you did. My brain just decided to not work, I guess.
You're not going to love that.
I know I'm not. That's what I was thinking. I haven't watched any of those.
You're going to be so mad if Scott gets this.
I'm sure, but you know, my brain hasn't been good this week. I'm not going to lie.
So wait, is like Bill Skarsgård in it, or just? Yeah,
I don't know.
Sure.
Wait, okay. Nosferatu.
It's Nosferatu.
Oh shit. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, my brain. I mean, my brain didn't want to think real quick.
All right,
And
next
I
up.
can't wait. If we have a shitty rest of the year, I'm fine because I
Yeah.
already got Love Lies Bleeding, and you know what? I just need Nosferatu, and I'm very, very happy.
This blue Christmas, be quick to get indoors when you hear the Keanu warning.
What?
I have no idea. I know their words. I don't know what they all mean together.
This blue Christmas, be quick to get indoors when you hear the Keanu warning.
What's the Keanu warning?
That's me indicating that Keanu is in this movie.
I understand.
I'm
Yeah, I figured.
assuming,
Yeah. Is he doing another John Wick? We got another one. We got Wick 7 out.
All right, this will be worth half a point now. I'm gonna start reading other details of the movie. Directed by Jeff Fowler, based on the video game by Sega. Starring James Marsden, Ben Schwartz.
Oh, Sonic 3.
Oh, Sonic. Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah.
Yep, that is Sonic 3.
Keanu's in that?
Yep, he's playing Shadow.
Oh, okay.
And
that's right. Okay.
So
I heard about that.
The 4 clues were blue, Sonic, Christmas. It's coming out at Christmas. Quick to get indoors.
I understand.
Sonic.
I understand.
Keanu warning.
All right, we got it.
That's good.
Eventually.
Yeah.
A rarely seen front, sure to affect people who didn't actually care until this was announced, and now I guess it's really important to them. It has a 100% chance of Pennywise and a, let us hope, 0% chance of pulling an Alec Baldwin like the last time they tried this.
Huh.
That was a little long. Go over that again.
Yeah.
Rarely seen, sure to affect people who didn't actually care until this was announced. 100% chance of Pennywise and a hopefully 0% chance of pulling an Alec Baldwin like the last time they tried this.
The Crow.
It is indeed the Crow.
Good call, Scott. Nice, dude. Yeah, that's exactly it. That is wild, isn't it? I remember seeing that movie. I mean, my brother and I used to love marking out to that movie. We used to fire it up together. But it's wild how much everyone all of a sudden just is like the Crow.
Yeah, everyone's like mad that I can't believe they're remaking the Crow or whatever, and it's like, you fucking give a shit? Like it's that was me. That's a critical.
Yeah, no, good on you for that. Even the as morbid as it was, because I was trying to think of what angle that was, and I'm like, okay, we kill another DP. Oh, okay, no, it was the actor. Yeah, that's right, Brandon Lee.
I'm just gonna be out of focus, I guess.
Since I assume Bill Skarsgård is the Crow then too.
Yes.
Okay, well, having seen him he was the star of, the physical star of Boy Kills World.
Okay.
I'd say that's good casting.
Yeah,
definitely.
Bill Skarsgård's great. That's a great.
He's great.
One of the best.
Absolutely.
One of the best Baldwins, maybe one of the worst. Especially these days, Skarsgård, one of the best showbiz families. IMHO.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
All right, next. A twin formation teased for the better part of a decade with a 100% of being wacky, chance of being wacky, and if it loses too much momentum before landfall, it might spell the end for similar storms.
Twisters?
No, but I definitely wrote that in a way to set you up to think that would be the answer.
Nice. Very nice.
Is it Deadpool and Wolverine?
It is Deadpool and Wolverine, in fact. Which I do think if that lands with a thud, MCU's genuinely in trouble.
That is definitely not.
Given how few things have come on, and just I've been reading stuff on Twitter about adults are talking about how this is part of the reason movies aren't making as much money as they used to, is just because teenagers don't go to the movies anymore. They're not trained to go to the movies, and apparently Furioso is the one. Yeah, we might check that out, but Deadpool and Wolverine is the one we will see this movie. So
it'll be the first time in a long time that even just grabbing those tickets opening day it's going to be insane.
Yeah.
And we have not had that in a very, very long time. Probably Spider-Man, even more than Spider-Man. It's gonna do really well.
High alert for this weather pattern that hasn't been seen since the 80s, with a
Twisters?
100% chance of nostalgia baiting some people and a like 10% chance of actually being good considering this director's later track record.
Bad Boys?
Mm-mm.
No, I'm just saying shit. I don't even know what's coming out that's from the 80s. Like it's just
Can you do the can we hear it again?
High alert for this weather pattern that hasn't been seen since the 80s, with a 100% chance of nostalgia baiting some people and a like 10% chance of actually being good considering this director's later track record. Here's a bigger hint.
Beetlejuice.
Yes, yeah, that's why I say weather
okay,
pattern
good on
twice.
you, dude. Nice. Yeah, good call. Oh, okay. I get what you're doing. In the aftermath of it.
All right, everyone, get their tongues ready, because when I finish this, it'll be the most obvious one yet. This formation hasn't been seen since the 90s, featuring, as far as I can tell, Twisters, yeah.
I'm like, look, I'm gonna get one of these fucking things, all right? I was just gonna keep saying it.
Featuring none of the original cast, but apparently the new Superman, David Cornsweet, is in this movie, apparently.
Katie O'Brien's in it as well.
And it actually has to do with the weather, which that would have been the part where you guys, it was really obvious.
I think I really read something about how this movie's going to be kind of influenced based on like a true story of those weather guys. They were on one of those shows where they just chase these tornadoes, and there was a dude who had done it forever and then literally died in the process of doing it. And I have a feeling it's somewhat loosely based on that.
I think, so I know David Cornsweet, new Superman, is in it, and I know that Kiernan Shipka, aka Sally Draper, aka Sabrina the Teenage Witch, modern Sabrina, not Melissa Joan Hart. They're both in it.
I'd like Melissa Joan Hart. That'd be fun.
They're both in it apparently, and I'm guessing they're going to be like another team that dies.
Yeah, totally.
At some point. Memorial Day weekend, be on the lookout for another go at this comic property with a big fat chance of
Garfield.
Yep, great
Garfield,
voice acting.
I might be skipping Garfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so.
I'm probably gonna, I think like half of these I might end up not seeing. We'll see. Maybe like, yeah, probably not Garfield. Don't forget your umbrellas. This second front moves in from the world of Cane and Finger, carrying it with the potential for more Oscar glory.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't think of what that could be.
All right, for half a point, I'm gonna start reading off details. Get your tongues ready. Directed by Todd Phillips.
Joker 2.
Joker, Father, yeah, I do.
Whatever the fuck it's called, yeah.
I'm
So you can give it
giving
to Scott. I could get.
No.
I actually just don't want a point.
I'm giving it
out of principle.
No, you get the half point. I don't care about the subtitles. If someone just says the name, if someone said Joker, I'd be like, yeah, that's it. This October, an early Christmas wind brings in inches of gore for this new slasher threequel.
Mia, the X. What's it called? I don't.
Maxine?
Vaccine, yeah.
No.
Oh.
Can you say it again real quick?
This October, an early Christmas wind brings in inches of gore for this new slasher threequel.
Strangers?
No. I'll give you guys a second.
The only ones that are left are like the only horrors that I like know of that all of the Long Legs and Cuckoo.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I mean, you're gonna say something that I'll immediately not, but you know.
I'll give this one last hint before I cut it down to half a point and start reading off. One of you mentioned it earlier, like literally said this as a guess earlier.
Twisters?
This was directed by Damien Lamone, starring a bunch of people whose names you're not going to remember. It's coming out in October. I don't know how to. Stars David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown.
Terrifier 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's Terrifier.
I know enough
3.
about those movies. I'll never watch them because they just seem like the fucking biggest piece of trash. Like, and I'm down for gore, by the way. I'm not talking anything about that, but they just seem like just not a fun time.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my take on them, anyways, from reading about them.
I'd be maybe down, but I don't know. I'm also.
It's hard to say. I mean, some of the violence is just like the misogyny level is just it's such a fucking peak that I don't even know if I want to watch that just for the sake of seeing somebody. Like I generally, when it comes to like seeing somebody truly having a bad time, that's when torture porn stuff kicks in. And I don't dig that.
Moving up from the lower hemisphere, this first prequel for its series gets a sun advisory warning.
Mufasa? I don't know.
Not Mufasa.
That's a good guess, though. It's a prequel?
Mm-hmm.
It's the first prequel?
First prequel for its series. It's a sun advisory warning. Moving up from the lower hemisphere.
Strangers?
Nope.
I named 2 prequels, though. That should be worth some points.
It's worth style points.
Hmm.
Oh, y'all are going to be so mad. Get your tongues ready.
Mm-hmm.
For half a point, this was directed by George Miller.
Oh, Furiosa.
All right, each of you gets a quarter point.
Nice. Can't wait. Add up. Man, I can't wait for Furiosa. I'm just gonna say that. I just can't fucking wait. Especially now hearing some of those early reviews. I mean, Edgar Wright even had a thing to say, and I was fucking like, yes.
It's wild. It's like half an hour longer than the last. It's like 2.5 hours, which I'm totally in for. But like, I honestly like that makes me really excited about it because like I know how like epic that can be with that length.
Yeah.
I'm
ready to just be destroyed.
The first animated storm for this franchise, but not the first for this IP. It has a 100% chance of celebrity voice casting and already has shown signs of a lot of weird press because of it.
Is this that
Mufasa?
animated the Lord of the Rings anime?
It's not. That's a good guess, though.
All right, let's hear it again because I was like thinking it's got to be that one. But like
The first animated storm for this franchise, but not for the IP. It has a 100% chance of celebrity voice casting and has already shown signs of a lot of weird press because of it.
Did Kung Fu Panda come out already?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know that. I don't know animated films that well.
Also, that's not the first animated movie. So it's the first.
Oh, first, right?
But not for the franchise, huh?
Yeah, a first. I couldn't figure out how exactly to word this, but it's like a first. It's like how WandaVision.
No, I get it.
WandaVision was the first TV show of the MCU, but it's clearly not the first Marvel TV show.
Yeah, I get it. That's why I thought it was Lord of the Rings.
That's a really good guess. But that doesn't have as much celebrity voice casting. It's got Brian Cox, but whatever, he's great.
Yeah, what more celebrity do you need? If you need more, then fuck off.
All right, for half a point, it's based on the toys by Hasbro.
What the fuck is that? Not G.I. Joe. Oh,
Hot Wheels? Are they making a Hot Wheels movie?
I want to let Brian think.
Is it The Sims? No, no, because it's Hasbro. Fuck.
G.I. Joe was closer.
Transformers?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to give it to Scott.
Transformers? Okay.
Transformers
No, it's
1,
fine.
which is a
I like to omit all of the Transformers out of my brain anyway, so.
Which is a animated prequel with Chris Hemsworth taking over the voice of like a young Optimus Prime, and there's all this weird press.
That's right.
I love all these because I gotta be honest, and listen, I have so many Marvel and DC posters on my walls right now, so I get it to a certain degree, but like, who fucking gives a shit about Transformers?
No, it's true. I mean, I grew up at the perfect age for Transformers, and
No.
But there's
Shit.
all this stuff where it's like the producer explained that Hemsworth's depiction will grow into the leader depicted in previous installments, stating that the transition from Hemsworth's voice to Peter's will make sense within the story, and like the fans will be really into it. And it's like, who fucking gives a shit? But anyways,
Yeah.
That's just pandering.
yeah,
Yeah. And like
does
to
that
like
come to
7
theaters?
people.
I don't know why, but I thought that was a Netflix thing.
I think it's coming to theaters.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I didn't even know it was a thing.
could be cool.
So yeah, Paramount's distributing it. So yeah,
Okay.
whatever.
Cool.
Look out for this desperate formation, starring a character everyone has been clamoring for in other movies, and Russell Crowe in his third comic book movie role.
Craven the Hunter.
That is indeed Craven the Hunter.
Finally,
Finally,
Is that going to actually happen this year? Is that one of the
Apparently.
two that we're getting this year?
it's
Okay.
supposed to have. Well, that's not an MCU movie.
Oh, right. That's Sony. That's Sony's
That's one of
magic
those
land.
Sony.
Oh, right.
We can't lose the rights to
right.
Spider-Man, but we can't make a Spider-Man movie.
Oh, they're fucked.
yeah.
They are fucked.
Presumably mad at itself for wasting a perfect subtitle in its previous iteration, and
Bad Boys, Ride or Die.
yeah,
Or
ins-
die, like yeah.
instead using a subtitle I associate more with a different franchise, Fast and Furious. Look out for this Floridian phenomenon next month. They've got to be so mad at themselves for wasting 4 Life on the third one and not waiting
Yep.
until 4 Life. Halloween weekend, be on the lookout for Oil Slicks, a scrambling studio, and possible queer themes.
I just don't know everything that's coming out. It's a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm making excuses for myself, but still, I just don't. I can't think of what that could be. I don't know. I'm gonna give it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Directed by get your tongues ready, Kelly Marcel, screenplay by her, story by her and Tom Hardy, based on the Marvel Comics.
Venom
Yeah.
3.
Yes.
No.
Oh, are they doing a Venom 3? Oh, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ!
Venom: The Last Dance coming out this
Jeez.
Halloween. Apparently,
Exciting.
Is it about the Chicago Bulls?
we can only hope. Moving from Europe to South America, this formation has a strong chance of being charming, a medium chance of being as good as the previous 2 films, and a low chance of starring Sally Hawkins.
Paddington 3.
Yep, Paddington in Peru.
Jesus.
I think at this point, Brian, you can't catch up, unfortunately.
Sorry,
That's
buddy.
fine.
From
Like I
that
said, my
last
brain
one.
is not
But
functioning.
we're in the last stretch. So, emerging again after nearly 25 years, this storm brings with it some hot young actors, a level of prestige, and a say 60% chance of being good to great. There's a lot of opinions in these, I gotta be honest. Returning after 25 years, hot young actors, prestige, halfway chance of being pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, not that it matters.
Scott?
I'm trying to think of what came out in 1999. That's like doing a reboot. I don't know. Yeah.
For half a point, it's directed by Ridley Scott.
Alien Romulus.
No.
No, fuck. That's right. He's not.
Gladiator.
Gladiator 2. Yeah. Yeah.
Indeed. I mean, I like Ridley Scott, but like, you know, there's like, I would say there's a more than 50% chance that it will at least be good.
No, that was spot on for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you
that's
never know with that
unfortunately-
guy.
He's
But,
a
like,
tough one to. I mean, yeah.
I mean, he's more, I insulted Tim Burton earlier. Ridley Scott is obviously way more consistent than Tim Burton. Like,
yeah.
you know, in my opinion, these days at least.
Yeah.
Over,
I would say.
if we're talking about specific runs, obviously, I think Tim Burton had when he was on fire. He was on fire in a way Ridley Scott has never been that consistent. But,
Right. I mean, like, you make an Alien, and that's just like, I mean, that's one of my absolute top faves, and like that's why it's hard to actually be a Ridley Scott fan, because he comes out with something new, and it's not like I can't wait.
So I liked Napoleon, honestly. Napoleon was pretty good.
I didn't get to that one as of yet.
Honestly, like I think wait for the extended version, because I think the extended version.
That's kind of what I was gonna do. Yeah.
If that's coming, like I know, is that still happening?
I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah.
A local pattern not seen in 30 years. It has a 100% chance of going straight to Netflix and a 50% chance of getting Edwin's approval.
Schwarzenegger movies coming out. More action shit. Is it Mamma Mia 3?
Beverly Hills Cop 4?
Yep, indeed.
Nice. Good for you,
Beverly
Scott.
Hills Cop, Axel F. Which I remember I asked him on the pod once, like, what do you think? And he was like, we'll see. So, for some reason, he saw The Fall Guy. He didn't see Monkey Man, which he would have loved.
I noticed that. Yeah, I mean, he ripped it. It's a weird one I wouldn't expect, but I felt like he watched it just so he could mark out to like all the other things, like True Stuntmen or like other films that do stunt things better.
Yeah. He would have liked Monkey Man. It's annoying. Like, he would have liked that movie a lot, probably, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree.
A sudden front moving in from Europe. This triptych tale has a high chance of making people uncomfortable.
One more time.
A sudden front moving in from Europe. This triptych tale has a high chance of making people uncomfortable. No guesses?
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Get your tongues ready. Directed by Yorgos Lanthimos.
Oh shit! What's the name of it?
Yeah,
Oh god, I can't think of the name of it right now.
I can't either.
I hate my brain so much this week. Damn. The fucking dope movie that I'm sure is going to be awesome, and I can't think of the fucking title.
I think that's what it's called. The fucking dope movie that's probably going to be awesome.
Exactly. It's probably it, but yeah, something wonderful, something
Kinds of Kindness.
kinds of kindness.
Okay.
The seventh pattern of its type approaching late summer. It has a 100% chance of being helmed by someone who's kind of done something like this before, and a who fucking knows % chance of actually being good. Though I have to, yes.
So the 7th installment?
Yes.
Yep.
No, Brian
And
already
we've
got
been-
it.
Yeah,
What
I
did
got
we
it,
say?
yeah. It's Alien Romulus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
just know because I've been sitting here every Alien movie that comes out. It's just like, all right, maybe this is the one.
Yeah.
Nope.
Who knows? And like Fede Alvarez
fuck
is someone who, I mean, I respect him, but I also like he's like kind of all over the place for me. Also, I gotta be honest.
I hope it's
I
still
don't want to get like too into it because we're on Game Point, but I was going to say there's not that much meat on the alien bone. So the fact that we're on the 7th installment,
Yeah.
I mean, there is though, and that's the problem. I think that's frustrating is they didn't do anything with it. Like, I mean, Predator's done fucking more, and that's. I hope the way it looks in the trailer. I mean, it looks really like tight shot and really more of an homage to the first one. So we'll see what actually happens. Who the fuck knows?
All right, this is my last one. There's no way y'all are getting this. I didn't even know this movie existed. The first part of a huge front moving in, helmed by a star we haven't seen direct in 20 years.
Is it going to be that Kevin Costner Western?
I'll give you a smidge of a point for that. It is Horizon, an American Saga, Part 1, which is apparently 3 hours, and there's going to be a Part 2.
Wow.
But isn't he on that TV show? There's like 900 episodes, so that's not really surprising.
Yeah, but this is his first time he's directed in like 21 years or something. And he's Kevin Costner, Best Director Oscar winner, I should say, as we all know from Dancing with Wolves. Yeah.
That was the first time I experienced an intermission during a movie theater.
Scott Gold, Brian Silver, and you guys both, because there was only the two of you, A- to your your things. So Congratulations. Anything else anyone got? I was gonna shout out. I've been re-listening because I used to listen to it a lot when I was back in college. But Arms Way, the second album by Islands, which is really good.
Oh, nice, nice.
But
well, I mean, speaking of music, we had a loss of a legend today. Steve Albini died,
Yeah,
and he
R.I.P.
obviously he's done so much for music between the Pixies and Nirvana. I mean, there's a countless. The Breeders, PJ Harvey, one of my favorite band of all time, Godspeed You Black Emperor, and it is his years were just fucking amazing, and it's super super sad that he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a
Definitely.
legacy, but rest in peace, man. Like,
Absolutely.
I also think we should get a fucking ceasefire up in here. And I know our next episode, next week probably, or maybe the week after that, but we're going to be talking about the next 5 episodes of Twin Peaks, episodes 12 through 16, aka season 2, episodes 5 through 9, aka when the main storyline is kind of resolved, and
we just wander for a while.
And then after that, kind of just have some fun, hanging out with our buddies in old Twin Peaks. I do think there is a part of me, and we'll get into this when we talk about those, like, quote unquote shittier episodes. I mean, they are the shittier episodes of Twin Peaks, but like, I do also think it's like that Marilyn Monroe quote where it's like, if you can't handle, like if you can't handle,
oh yeah, handle me at my worst, you don't get me at the best. Yeah.
If you can't handle Twin Peaks at Civil War Ben, you don't deserve Twin Peaks at finale of season 2, in my opinion.
Civil War Ben, man, I can't wait for that shit. Jesus Christ.
as someone who has not seen these in quite some time, I am looking forward to like oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Civil War Ben. Oh, James and the lady, the MILF.
With James and his lady. Yep. You just bike around town and just meet some ladies. It's great.
And I want to thank Brian here for composing our closing credit music. I want to plug, we are on social media at CinemaCurse666 on TikTok. Get it before they shut it down, and Instagram. Please like and subscribe. Smash that like button. Show this to your local tennis coach. Be like, hey, I know something that's gonna make you rock hard. And it's this episode of Cinema Curse. Thank you guys for joining. It's been fun as always.
Totally. Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.